we are going to start refreshing our mind about where we left off with our Jill Jackson coaching. So diving into how to coach teachers. And our purpose today, if you'll turn your eyes to the screen. So we're going to spend a lot of time today digging into the 5 styles of coaching that Jill Jackson talks about to learn the processes for briefing, pre-briefing, and post-briefing or debriefing with a teacher. And our success criteria will be around integrating that knowledge into your practice through a compass points activity at the end of our time. So we're going to get to know kind of the people in the room now that the room is a little bit smaller and have some dialogue around spring. My favorite time of the year because everything becomes new again. So we just want to encourage you to have a standing conversation with somebody who's not at your table and share what you're most looking forward to this spring. So if you'll take a minute to kind of do that, get up, kind of say hello to somebody else, and think spring for a moment. Hopefully spring conjures up those thoughts of energy and excitement and sunshine for you like it does for me. It always leaves me thinking positive and in a happy mood. And something that we do in here for LCN with that triple track agenda is to kind of give you those things that you can take back to use in your building or with your staff for that positive affirmation. So one of the things that was placed on your table during that time that you were standing having a conversation is this affirmation bingo. Using this as an idea to bring those positive thoughts back to your staff. So one thing we're going to try to do today, not any formal activity at any given point in time, but carry this with you throughout the day and kind of say, is there a natural way to fit some of these ideas into your conversation, into your dialogue? Could you compliment someone on their insight, or could you really say something in leaving a conversation that's a positive wish you could share with someone? If you can, mark it with an X or something, and see if you can naturally integrate some of those into your conversation for a bingo today. Just an idea that you can also take back. So we are going to, there's my affirmation bingo, and it's really about building relationships, right? That's the crucial part of coaching. So our agenda today, you'll see it posted over there as well as up on the screen. We're going to link to our prior learning. We're going to talk about planning and scheduling coaching, talk about the styles of coaching, the pre-brief and the debrief, other coaching tools, and reflection for next steps. So last time you were here, if you think way back to when that was, we talked about using this priority skill staircase, and we did a lot of thinking around that. What would be the principal's instructional goal? How would we break that down and unpack that to look like various stair steps? And where might your staff be ready to start in working towards that principal's instructional goal? So we used a sheet similar to the one on the right to think about each teacher in your building or in the buildings that you're working in, and what would be their starting skill in working towards that instructional goal. So you probably have those materials somewhere with you. If you want to dig them back out, that's kind of where we're going to pick up our thinking today. And we're going to reflect back on, is that goal still the goal we're working towards? And with those teachers' lists of names and the starting skills, how you might schedule them into a coaching schedule, what that looks like on a daily, a weekly, a monthly basis. So Diane's going to kind of pick up there. We had left off, if you're following along in your Jill Jackson book, we had done tabs 3 and 4 last time, and Diane's going to start on the scheduling coaching tab.
Okay, so we are going to be looking at scheduling coaching, which is the 5th tab in your book. And I'm going to kind of talk you through how Jill Jackson, her strategies for scheduling. We're going to share with you a couple of different ways to do it. And then we'll give you some time to get started on a schedule for coaching your teachers. So to start with, we put some small little sticky notes on your table. So when we give you time to do this, these are the sticky notes you'll want to use. And you make up a sticky note for each one of your teachers. And on the sticky note, you may want to put a couple of little notes for yourself so you're not having to cross-reference different documents. It's all right there on the sticky note. So on the sticky note on the screen, we have the teacher's name. We have the skill that we are working on with that teacher. So this particular teacher, we're working on behavior management. And then we have the frequency with which we want to be coaching that teacher. So remember that Jill Jackson breaks the teachers down into intensive, those teachers that are working on those very basic skills, strategic teachers that are, working still on some of those basic skills, but they're getting close to being where we want them to be. Benchmark teachers have those basic skills in place. Now we're working on the principal's instructional goal, and our advanced teachers are those superstars that don't need a lot of our coaching, but Jill Jackson does say everybody gets coaching. Reality might be a little bit different based on our time and our schedules, right? But the goal would be everyone gets coaching. So when we think about scheduling those teachers, we want to meet with our intensive teachers the most frequently, right? That would make sense. So plan on meeting with those teachers every week to week and a half. So this is an intensive teacher, so we've got 1 to 1.5 weeks written on the corner of our sticky note. The strategic teachers you would meet with every 2 to 2.5 weeks, benchmark teachers every 3 to 4 weeks, and your advanced teachers maybe every 5 or 6 weeks. So maybe every month and a half you check in with those advanced teachers. So you can see when you spread it out like that how it becomes a little bit more manageable to try to actually coach everybody. So one way to then arrange your sticky notes, and on your table you do have copies of this blank coaching schedule, would be to start with all of your sticky notes on the top and treat this page as 1 week. So as you schedule your teachers for Monday, you'd write in their name. You might write in, what are you meeting with them about? Is it the pre-conference? Are you actually doing an observation, or are you modeling for them? Is it a debrief? And the time that you're going to meet with them. So this is a 1 week schedule. So we've got 3 teachers on Monday, 2 on Tuesday, 1 on Wednesday, 1 on Thursday. These teachers are not yet scheduled in. Once you have scheduled them, you move their sticky note to another blank page for the next week. Okay? So you're basically just using the sticky notes to keep track of who you've scheduled meetings with and who you have not. Okay? So that's one way to do it. Another way would be to treat this page, instead of as a week, as a month. So each row would be a full week, and each row would be 1 week. So when you do that as you schedule teachers, instead of writing them in, because you're treating that one little square on Monday as the whole day, you just move their sticky notes down and you just layer them so that you can see that you've got all your teachers scheduled. And then once you've met with a teacher, you would move them to the next week that you're going to meet with them. Okay, so kind of a little bit different way of looking at it. These are just 2 ideas. Obviously, you can use these forms or other forms however it works best for you. You do everything digitally. But you just do want a way to keep track of all your teachers and where they are in your coaching, because it becomes very easy to suddenly look at your schedule and realize, oh my gosh, I haven't even checked in with that teacher in 3 months, right? Because we get so busy. So we're going to give you a little bit of time now to see if you can kind of put together a schedule for your coaching. So the steps are all laid out on pages 27 through 33 behind the scheduling tab in your book. So see if you can use the sticky notes and the calendar, or like I said, if you do it digitally, you could start your digital calendar and see if you can kind of put in place a schedule for coaching your teachers.
In walking around the room, we heard a lot of conversations about specific teachers and how we can help specific teachers. We also heard some brainstorming about different ways that districts are utilizing coaches or different way they're doing trainings. One of the things that we always want you to know is that we try to give enough time for you to dig into something and to talk and think about something. But if you're at a different spot in your learning, we're always okay and encourage the talk to go in the direction you need it to go. So if you were sorting out teachers and that's what you needed right now, that's fine. And if you needed to collaborate around a similar topic, we're okay with that as well. What we're going to do right now is we are going to go into a jigsaw so we can start to investigate a little bit more in depth the 5 styles of coaching. If you were at Jill Jackson, you've heard a little bit about this, and if you haven't, the 5 styles of coaching are observation, demonstration, side-by-side, co-observation, and shadowing. And we are going to give you the opportunity to dig a little bit deeper in your books. So if you turn to page 53, this is where the 5 styles of coaching begins. And so what we're going to have you do first is at your table, you're going to number off to 5. If you don't have 5 people there, then just number off to 4 or whatever number you have, that's fine. Or double up if you need to at your table. But we want you to number off. And once you've done that, then we are going to be breaking off into your expert groups. So if you are number 1, let me skip through all these a second so I can go to the next slide. If you're number 1, you are going to be reading the observation part, which is page 54. If you're number 2, you're going to be reading about demonstration coaching. If you're number 3 in your group, you're going to read side by side. Number 4 is co-observation, and number 5 is shadowing. And so then what we're going to do is once you've decided who's going to read what, you're going to break off into your numbers. So you see here is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you're going to become expert groups. So one person from every table is going to come together, and you're going to read through this section and have some dialogue about it. Some thinking that you can have. Sorry, I've got to go way back now. Some of the thinking or questions you might want to talk about. What is it? So first of all, just get an idea of what is this type of coaching. When might you use this type of coaching? Why would you choose it? Please feel free to jump into this conversation about examples of coaching that you've tried that way. Or we want to make this conversation as deep as we can in our expert groups, so then you feel really comfortable about that style of coaching, because we're going to have you go back then to your home group, and you're just going to go around and share out what you've learned from your expert group on this style of coaching. Are there any questions about the process that we're going to take? Okay, then I'm going to have you go ahead and number off at your tables and then head on over to your expert number, please. When you get into your groups, you can feel free to decide with your group how you want to read. If you each want to read individually and then come back and talk, if you want to share your reading, it doesn't matter to us what you want to do as long as you start the conversation. And also just a reminder, if you start jumping into certain examples of your buildings, we have the microphone and stuff up here. We're not recording your group or your conversation. So just to keep your mind easy in case you would like to have more in-depth conversations. And thank your expert team. And then you can go ahead and head back to your home tables. When you get to your home table, you can start round robin style, sharing back what you have learned as an expert. Walking around listening in, I could hear a lot of conversations about, well, I might use this with this teacher, or this might be a good opportunity for me to use this. I think that's the most important thing to remember about these styles, are that these are choices that we make for different situations that we're in. So with not all teachers are we going to be able to come in and to do all of these coaching styles, but we most certainly can pick and choose a starting point as to where we want to go with those teachers. We are going to be jumping into next, taking a look at some videos and talking a little bit about the pre-conferences and the debriefing. And Christi is going to jump up and kind of get us looking into those pieces.
Okay. So on your tables you have a page called Compass Points. And there's a compass in the middle. How handy is that? We're going to watch a couple of videos from Jill with a debrief and or pre-brief and a debrief. So before she goes in and then after. And what we want you to focus on as you watch the videos are 3 of the compass points. We're going to save the last compass point for after we've watched both videos. So during the 3 videos, or during the 2 videos, we want you to focus on what do you find worrisome, so the W, what do you need to know, and what excites you. So focus on basically the top third here during the videos. After the video, you'll have a chance to kind of digest what you've seen, reflect on your own personal beliefs about coaching, and then here you'll fill in the S for the stance that you might take on a pre-brief or debrief. Okay? For the videos right now, again, the worrisome, need to know, and excited is where we're going to focus our thinking. So take a minute to read those questions over and to kind of prime your brain to get ready to watch the videos. Okay, so would you just quick pop up your hand if you were at the Jill Jackson training? Okay. It's very odd because she chose the same videos that we originally had chosen to show you, including just a video that we found on YouTube, and she happened to use the same YouTube video, which was really strange. But we're going to show you a different pre-brief and debrief than what she did at her training. Okay, so we'll see a little bit different one. There are multiple videos on her website, so if you have the book, which you all do, you can go to her website and you can see a whole bunch of different videos that she has. I think she has 4 different teachers that she does pre-brief and debrief with. So if you want a little bit different taste for how she does it with different teachers, those are all on her website for you. So we're going to watch this one with Allison S., a resistant teacher who uses a lack of reflection to avoid coaching. And again, you're focusing on those 3 questions on your compass points as you watch.
Allison, thanks for meeting with me. I know that Mrs. Jones, our principal, has asked that I meet with everybody to just talk through how everything's going with their goal of really focusing on how to differentiate instruction with your lowest 5 kids. And so I wanted to kind of focus on who you think your lowest 5 kids are. I've jotted down some that are showing up in your data as that, and just give you a sense of how we can move forward and work together on how we can move forward in coaching. So I'm glad that we can meet together. So when Mrs. Jones was talking to us about that goal of picking the 5 lowest kids, the kids that I picked from your class, I just strictly went by their data. I picked Priscilla. Is that one you would have chosen? Yeah. Okay. I have Alice and Jennifer, and then Alex and Micah. Would those have fallen on your list of kids that you think, yep, they need to be pulled over to the side, and they're the ones that need some a little extra push each day? Yes. Yes, okay, so that's good. Have you noticed anything about them in particular, or something that they've been struggling with, or have you been keeping an eye on them at all because they do pop up as your lowest, the most struggling kids? You notice much of what's going on with them?
No.
Just kind of just teaching to the whole class, okay? Have you tried any of the techniques that we learned in the training recently about how to, get kids working on one thing while you pull these 5 kids to the side? Have you tried anything, or not yet, or where are you with that?
Not really. I mean, I feel like what I've been doing is working fine.
Okay. No doubt your data looks good. I mean, when we look at the data, we're seeing, yeah, okay, things are looking good in your class, that Allison's doing a good job. So the data is showing that, but we still, even when we're doing a good job, want to figure out how we can get to the next level. So I think that's what I've been charged to do with you, and hopefully that you'll, be open to doing that along with me. So let's move ahead with Priscilla, Alice, Jennifer, Alex, and Micah, and kind of figure out where we're going to start with them. So there were a few other teachers that I've worked with kind of in the same position as you, who are not struggling, but thinking like, I don't even know where to start. How do I get the other kids working on something while I get these kids working on what they need extra support in and all of that? So I was thinking that might be a good starting point to first look at where how you organize your class. Like, where do you start with organizing your class so that you can pull those 5 kids for an extra boost? Does that seem like a good starting point?
Sure.
Okay, have you ever worked on that before, or have you just been doing your typical?
I've just been doing what my
Okay.
friends.
And are at all during the day or the week, are you pulling small groups, or are you just basically teaching everything whole group?
I'm just teaching everything.
Okay. So I'm going to put down here that a good starting point for us would be the management of the small group versus the whole group. Because I know when I worked with other folks, and I even experienced this a bit in my own classroom too, was like, yeah, I can pull these 5 kids, but I don't know what to do with the other 30. You know, so I think if we start there with the management of the small group, I'm going to put that versus the whole group. That might be a good place for us to start. One of the things that I was thinking of is maybe setting a time up, or definitely setting a time up for next week, for me to come in and just do some side-by-side coaching of you. So maybe we can get together in a couple of days and talk about how you would manage the small group versus the whole group, and then I could get in a few days after that, and then kind of coach you while you're getting the kids organized on that. Would that be something that you think would be helpful for you?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I have the time for it. But...
Okay. Well, what if we did about like a 15-minute chunk? We just started really small. I could take 15 minutes of your time. You can pick the time. And we'll just get that chunk down so we can get the management thing together and get you some feedback on that. Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put us down for 15 minutes. What day, we're going to set 2 dates. What date should we get together and maybe take about 15, 20 minutes during your prep time or before or after school? I can be really flexible on that to work with your schedule. Would Thursday work to get together to plan what we're going to do for the following week as I side-by-side coach you?
Well, I don't know, I didn't bring my calendar with me.
Okay, I'm going to put down, what does Thursday typically look for you? You have the morning prep or the afternoon prep?
Usually I do morning.
Okay. I'm going to put down morning prep. I promise that we'll keep it really, really clean for like 15 or 20 minutes. And what I'll do is I'll email you when we leave here so you can check your calendar right when you get back to class to see what time would work on Thursday morning. And then I think you have typically your English language arts time is it 9 to 10:15 on Wednesday? Does that sound good? Or 10:30?
Yeah.
If I came in at about 9 and we did that side-by-side coaching, let's do it next Thursday. Would that work for you?
Yeah.
Should work? Okay, so I'm sorry, not Thursday, Tuesday after that. I'll come in at 9, but I'll confirm all this by email so that you can make sure it looks in your calendar and mine. If for some reason those times don't work, would you shoot me back an email with times that would? I'll make sure to make it a priority to fit that in.
Sure.
Okay? That would be really great. So what I was thinking of is we'll get together on Thursday morning in your morning prep, 15, 20 minutes, and kind of plan kind of how you'll differentiate. And then I'll get in that following Tuesday at 9 a.m. and I'll give you feedback as we go along. So remember, side-by-side coaching explained it to the whole staff in the last staff meeting, but you'll be in charge of the class, getting the kids, the 5 to the small group, getting the others organized on stuff, but then I'll give you feedback on, try that again, or that worked really well, keep doing that, or whatever. Give you feedback as we're going along. Will you be open to that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll just keep a really simple note of the feedback that I'm giving you while we're doing the side-by-side coaching, and then we'll kind of debrief it at the end. Okay, so let me, I'll just in terms of what notes I'll take, I'll just do a simple, like a diary of the feedback that I've given you during side-by-side. What I think I'll do is typically you give your directions like right at the front of the room, right? So I'll just sit up near the front of the room, but I'll just whisper to you or lean over and talk to you and say, try this again, or whatever the feedback is in the moment. Will that work for you if I'm up near you?
I guess, yeah.
Okay. So I'll be at the front of the room, and before I come in on that Tuesday at 9 a.m., just tell your kids we're going to do something a little different, that, just like they get coaching from you, teachers get coaching from me, and so we'll just be talking during the lesson. They can just be quiet if you and I talk about something and then just move on. So I think one of the things a lot of teachers worry about is they'll seem weird in front of the kids, but if you just say, hey, it's kind of weird, we're doing something different, and they usually go along with it. So if you just give them a quick heads up about that. And then the final date that we need to set up is we need to do a debriefing. Now I know you have your team meeting on Tuesday afternoon. What if we just set up at the tail end of your team meeting, like around 3:30, to take a 15-minute debriefing? Would that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, you don't seem too confident in that, or is that just not gonna work for you?
3:30 afternoons are pretty hard for me, so.
Is there a better time within like 24 hours of that Tuesday? Maybe Wednesday morning or afternoon, or even during your prep that
I
day?
guess maybe Wednesday morning.
Okay, what time would be good?
7:30.
Let me just check that really quickly. So 7:30, I can do, yeah, I can do that, and I can do, because I have a 7:45. So let me do Wednesday morning at 7:30, and we'll make it short and sweet, okay? And I will email you this, and if you can just email me right back with confirming that all this works, since you don't have your calendar. I will just lean in and give you feedback during that time, and I talked to you about prepping the kids, and then we'll meet on the Thursday, or this Thursday, to kind of talk through what you'll do, and we should be good to go. So I'll shoot you that email, and just get back to me right away, and we'll confirm it all. Okay, thanks, Allison.
All right, so take a minute just to jot down any notes on your compass points on the top 3, so the worrisome, need to know, or excited. And then we'll move on to her debrief. So we're gonna pretend like she's gone and done this side-by-side coaching, and now her and that same teacher are going to get together to reflect on how that went, okay? Thanks, Diane. And again, use the same note-taking form for yourself as we go through the debrief.
All right, Allison, thanks for meeting with me. It was great to meet with you on Thursday to kind of plan our time together. I think that's good to always have a plan for heading into the coaching, but it's not always necessary. But that way we knew what you were getting at in pulling those 5 kids. So just to kind of recap, we were looking at following up on our principal's expectation that we pull 5 kids at least every day for some targeted instruction. So we looked at Priscilla, Alice, Jennifer, Alex, and Micah as kids that would really benefit from a boost of extra teaching by you. And we just use your data. So I think that's always a good place to start. So talk to me about how you thought the lesson went.
I think it went okay. I think the kids were a little bit distracted because you were there, and that threw them off a little bit. But I think overall it was all right.
How might it look different if I wasn't in there, but you did the same thing? Can you anticipate, and you know your students, can you anticipate how that would have gone?
I think they would have done okay with it.
Okay. And how did it feel to, at least, and we didn't even talk about what you were going to do in the small group, but just at least get the class set up so that you could pull that small group of those 5 kids. How did that feel? Did it feel like, yeah, this is something I could do regularly, that's our requirement from our principal, but how did that feel overall?
Felt like a little bit extra work.
Okay. And when you think about that, that planning, how much additional time do you think it would take to do that? Do you think it would take you an hour additionally? Do you think you can do it in 20 minutes?
As far as the setup?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. All right, I'm just jotting down notes because I can't remember. I don't jot everything down. So we know that in our debriefing, we always then, I share the data that I picked up. So we said in the pre-conference that I would just keep kind of like a list of the feedback that I gave you. And so there were 3 pieces of feedback, for lack of a better term, that I picked up. And sometimes I know when you're doing side-by-side coaching, it's kind of hard to remember what I said because you're trying to run the class, listen to me and all that. So it can be a little bit like, everybody's up on me. So this will just be a quick review for the 2 of us. One of the things that I suggested was to give a little add-on alternate activity if kids finished early. So say you weren't done with working with the 5, but somebody finished early, you don't just want them sitting there for 5 minutes. So that is something I think you could work out in the planning. That would just be part of your prep time for that. And it needs to just be something that is connected to what they're already working on. So it's not like an additional thing that you have to prep, but something that's meaningful. So it could be extending something they're already doing or finishing up something that they didn't do earlier. So getting that alternative activity in there. Do you have any questions about that?
No, just if you have any suggestions about some ideas for that.
Okay, what I'm thinking of is what we should do is sit together as part of our next coaching step, to sit together and maybe plan for next week. And I can show you how I've seen some teachers extend kind of an alternate activity and have it be meaningful. So I'll share with some of the things I've picked up from other teachers that I think may be really helpful for you, and time saving. So I'll bring those ideas. One of the things was just like a ticky-tacky thing, but I really wanted to compliment you on because it really does matter that all of the kids were paying attention to you and listening when you gave directions. So you never had to repeat your directions ever, because all of your kids knew, like when she's giving directions, my eyes are on her, and you waited for that. So it might seem that might seem like something to you that's like, well, yeah, doesn't everybody do that? And they don't. So I just wanted to make sure that you continue to do that because it worked. It meant that you saved time and not having to repeat directions. Kids knew what they needed to do. So that was a really strong management piece that helps everything run well. And then the last piece of feedback that I think we can work on again in the planning time that maybe we'll plan next is perhaps there's one student or even a couple of students that you could designate as question answerers, because you're going to have kids that will have questions while you're working with your 5 that you're pulling. And you need someplace where they can go, because they can't constantly be interrupting you or you're going to go crazy, right? So maybe we can look at a particular student that's responsible and approachable that will be able to kind of guide kids, not teach them, but guide them and answer some simple questions that they might have. That was the one other suggestion that I gave you. So do you have any questions about those?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Is that hitting a mark for you? Does it seem like that's something that would help you and get that 5, those 5 kids you're pulling through that targeted teaching? Would this working on this stuff help you get there?
I think it might. I think I could do it a little bit to see if it could work.
Okay, so you're open to it. That's a good starting point. So in this step number 5 of our debriefing, we're looking at the trends in the data. I already shared that we looked at, the 3 things that I shared before. So what I want to suggest is that we set up a time to meet so that we can look at your next week's lessons and plan what the whole group will be doing, and then also what the individual kids will be doing. So you have that part of it lesson plan. Is that something that you would be open to and you think it would be helpful?
Yeah, I guess so. Take a little bit of time.
I find that it does take time on the front end, but in the back end, you're like, okay, I'm glad I did it. Now you kind of get the flow. What I'd love to do is sit down, and maybe this is something you can even do with your team as well, but sit down and kind of come up with a template for when you're trying to pull those 5 kids for targeted instruction. Here's a template for what the other kids can be doing like on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday and that kind of thing. So it kind of shores up some of your planning. So maybe we can work on something like that. So I'm going to skip step number 6 in our debriefing, so I'm going to go right to setting up our next time to meet. So I was looking at your daily schedule, and it looks like you have Friday from 9:15 to 9:45. That prep time is kind of unaccounted for. I know you're super busy, but can we take that time from 9:15 to 9:45 on Friday to do the planning for the next week? Would that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me get that date in there. So that's Friday from 9:15 to 9:45. Why don't I come to your classroom, and I'm going to put down side-by-side coaching is what we'll do, but it will really just be planning together. And why don't you, I'll come to your classroom at 9:15 on the dot. Why don't you have your curriculum for English language arts out and your plan book out? I'll bring everything else that I think we might need for those ideas that I told you about that other people have used. And then we'll just knock out the planning for the next week and see if we can get it to the point in your class where you don't feel like it's taking a ton of extra time, but you really are meeting our principal's goal. Will that work for you?
Yeah.
Now, I haven't asked I haven't asked you this question in a while, and I want to, and that is, and maybe we don't answer it today, but be thinking about it, so when we talk on Friday, is there anything I can be doing to support you in a different way or on a different focus to make our coaching better? Be thinking about that, because I really like not only to focus on the right stuff, but to make sure that our coaching relationship is working. So is there anything off the top of your head you can think of, or do you want to think about it and talk about it on Friday?
I'll think about it and talk about it.
Okay, so I'll add it to our notes here, and then we'll talk about that Friday too. So recap for me. Friday, you're going to bring, or I'm going to come to your classroom, and you're going to have what ready?
My curriculum already expressed.
And your lesson plan books. And I'll bring the resources the other teachers have tried that I think can help streamline it for you. So I'll send you a quick email reminder. This is what, and just accept that on your calendar. It'll go on our master calendars, and I think we're good to go. Do you have any other questions or anything I can answer? No? Okay, well then I'll see you Friday. Thank you.
Okay, so take 1 minute to finish up your notes on the top 3 sections of your compass point from this video. And quickly referring back to the triple track agenda that Diane mentioned earlier this morning, this protocol is linked in the slides for you down here. It's from Visible Thinking. And so if this is something that you feel like you might use with staff or with students in any realm, it's available here for you to reference. Okay? We're going to move to that bottom box and take a look at the question in the bottom box. And reflect on and record your thinking in this stance. We know that there are multiple styles of coaching, and Jill Jackson is only one of many different styles. And then as you and your group members feel ready, feel free to you just did that. Feel free to talk about your thinking with your table group. What things were exciting to you, what things were worrisome to you, where are some places where you may want more information, what is the stance that you might take on the way that Jill does the pre-brief and the debrief. So feel free to share your thinking with your table group. Allow them to push your thinking as well, and then any shifts in thinking or new ideas that you have, feel free to record on your compass point sheet as well. So we'll give you a few minutes to dialogue.
Okay, thank you. So, you could wrap up your conversations, please. Okay, so this is our last day of LCN, and there are still some other sections in the book that we have not had time to deeply explore with you. So I'm just going to kind of go through with you what those sections are so you know what is there available to you. So the first one is on data and note taking, and you noticed in the video that Jill talks about what kind of notes she's going to take with each coaching session. And so this kind of goes a little bit more deeply into that. How do you determine what notes you're going to take? You obviously can't take notes on everything that's happening in a classroom, so kind of narrowing down with your coachee what notes you're going to take while you're observing. The second section that we have not discussed is tracking your coaching, and this is really that piece of tracking your coaching with each coachee over time. So kind of a little bit beyond the scheduling piece, just how do you keep track for each person, the work that you're doing with them. And then the last one is dealing with resistance. So the videos that we just watched were clearly a resistant teacher, right? Not really open to coaching. So Jill has some suggestions in this last section about how to deal with resistant coaches. We do want to stress, though, that I'm sure most of you are aware at the ISD we do cognitive coaching. There are lots of different styles of coaching. Jill's style is one way to coach teachers. She's obviously more
So all of these articles are linked in the PowerPoint. They will also be posted electronically to the classroom, or I think they just were actually about 10 o'clock. The Grief of Accepting New Ideas article will be in the Rogue Room, so the person will take these. This is about changes in school and classroom practice, unleash a variety of emotions, and how can we support each other in that process. Hands-on learning in ELA. It's more of a secondary, middle school, high school article. This one will be in the Coldwater, and it's really about becoming familiar with the students who struggle in your class but excel in their electives and how to tap into some of their passion areas with that. Nell Duke's phonics faux pas, avoiding instructional missteps in teaching and letter sound relationships will be in the Thornapple. This article came out in January, maybe early December, somewhere in the winter. It's a longer article, but there's a lot of good information in there. Making teacher teams work is going to be here in the Grand with Katie, and that's about using data inquiry teams to support the learning of teachers and students. And then Learning in a Changing World is going to be held in the Cedar, and this one is about literacy in the 21st century. Do you have any questions for us before we wrap up our time together today? Okay, Hot or Not topic sessions start at 10:30, so we're a few minutes ahead of schedule. There's time to use the restroom, grab another cup of coffee, or refill your water bottle. And if you'd like to know where those things are again, or you'd like me to read them out so you can write them on your, well, I guess we're there. Okay, so you'll look on that 10:30 to 11:15 time. We'll see you in a few minutes.